In the past week, a growing sense of optimism has enveloped the cryptocurrency community, driven by the mounting belief that the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission is edging closer to greenlighting a spot Bitcoin exchange-traded fund. Esteemed figures in the crypto realm, such as Raoul Pal from Real Vision and Anthony Scaramucci from Skybridge, have joined this chorus of hope, sharing the expectation that the ETF's approval will materialize either before the year concludes or perhaps in January 2024. Regardless of the precise timing, there's a unanimous consensus that this regulatory endorsement would exert a profoundly positive influence on Bitcoin's price. The widely shared sentiment is that the arrival of an SEC-approved Bitcoin ETF would mark a watershed moment, beckoning thousands of institutional investors overseeing trillions of dollars to the crypto arena. This anticipated influx of institutional capital is seen as a long-anticipated boost that could significantly elevate Bitcoin's market value. What's intriguing is that this surge of optimism hasn't only inspired the long-term Bitcoin bulls, it has also stirred interest from an unlikely source, Gareth Soloway, a prominent technical analyst and short-term Bitcoin bear. Soloway, renowned for his bearish outlook since 2021, has frequently voiced concerns about unfolding macroeconomic trends that might negatively impact Bitcoin, possibly sending prices tumbling to $10,000 or lower. However, in a twist of perspective, Soloway now forecasts a significant upside for Bitcoin in the short term, primarily contingent upon the SEC's nod for a spot Bitcoin ETF. In an interview with Kyo's Michelle McSay, Soloway unveils his unexpectedly bullish short-term predictions for Bitcoin, indicating a notable shift in his stance. His analysis delves into more than just price predictions, as he also dissects the newly established support and resistance levels for Bitcoin. To delve deeper into Soloway's revised outlook and analysis, be sure to stay tuned until the video's conclusion.
And what we really saw was when we had that fake news that hit about the approval, where Bitcoin jumped from about 27,000 all the way to a high of 30,000, what that made people recognize is that there's going to be significant upside when the spot ETF gets approved. And so what we saw a lot of short covering and a lot of buyers coming into the market. And essentially what we're doing is we're rallying Bitcoin higher going into this approval, which means we're factoring in that news. And so what's interesting here is you'll probably get approval by year end or early in 2024. If Bitcoin is still up here, you may not go higher. It may be already factoring in the approval. And that's, again, what we're seeing in the charts right here. In general, it's very possible it could be a sell on the news. And depending on how high we go, I just draw everyone's attention to NVIDIA last quarter, right? Last quarter, NVIDIA going into earnings was $400. It rallied up, and on earnings, it opened at 500 and change, and then it sold back down to 400. So you have this kind of tendency for psychology within markets and investors where they start to get excited about news and they start buying and buying and buying. But once the news comes, there's kind of this natural letdown. And that's, again, what we could be seeing on Bitcoin here. So let's just say that it does jump, and I think initially you'll see this positive reaction, this kind of momentum trade jumping in. I would take this high from 2019 and connect it through the bull market lows, and there's this beautiful trend line. You can see how it connects right through these lows perfectly and right through these lows, and that gives us around a target potentially. This would be my max upside of about $47,000. But again, what I would be doing there is I'd be looking for it to fade that and actually expecting a bigger pullback off that level. Halving is a great fundamental factor within Bitcoin that is important over the longer term. But if you get such a run up on this news, like let's say on the spot ETF where it pops up immediately, I think it doesn't matter about the halving. You'll still see a pullback on the charts. So I think, again, price is the predominant factor here. And if you get to these levels or as high as 47,000, there will be people that got caught in the bear market decline that were even buying as high as the 40s, 50s, and 60s in Bitcoin back in 2021. And they will be happy to get their money back and they will cash out. And I also think that a lot of these institutions that have ETFs have probably been accumulating for the last couple months, knowing that eventually approval will come. And so there may not be as many buyers for the spot ETF as you think.
Soloway's prognosis envisions a potential upswing for Bitcoin, with the digital currency possibly surging to a peak of $47,000 per coin, provided that the current rally maintains its momentum. This optimistic outlook suggests that such an ascent might transpire before the SEC's highly anticipated announcement regarding the approval of a Bitcoin ETF. It's crucial to note, though, that Soloway doesn't anticipate Bitcoin's trajectory to extend significantly beyond this price point. While Soloway's stance has notably shifted from his customary bearish sentiments, he remains cautiously optimistic. In contrast to some of the more fervent Bitcoin and cryptocurrency enthusiasts who have embraced full-scale bullishness, Soloway approaches the situation with a degree of measured optimism. In the past week, market observers have witnessed exuberant forecasts, with some predicting an impressive 70% to 100% upward move upon the news of ETF approval. In contrast, Soloway's prediction involves a more moderate 68% increase from the preceding $28,000 level, with a 36% upswing from the current price level. Nonetheless, one aspect of Soloway's analysis remains particularly intriguing. He firmly believes that the SEC will indeed approve not just one but multiple spot Bitcoin exchange-traded funds, likely between late this year and January 2024. However, what sets his perspective apart is his readiness to contemplate the possibility of subsequent downside moves for Bitcoin as we venture into the Bitcoin halving event next year. To delve deeper into Soloway's insights and his thoughts on the potential for further economic decline in the United States, we recommend continuing with the video discussion.
Yeah, so that's still on the table. Although, again, you have to say that the action in Bitcoin has been tremendous right now. What I'm curious is once we get this news out that the spot has been approved and that news is behind us, what's the next narrative to drive price? Is it the halving? Does that play into effect? And then ultimately, what happens if the stock market goes down 35%, like I've been talking about? At some point, fear and panic will take over, even in Bitcoin holders. Remember, there's a lot of people that hold Bitcoin, like myself, that also have big stock portfolios. And if at some point I'm down huge, do I start to panic and start selling everything? And I think that's the worry that could drive us back to 15 or even lower if we get really in a bad space within the overall asset markets. So we have to just let the charts speak for themselves. And if we look at the Bitcoin chart, we've broken above this previous high right here, right? This was right around 31,500. So as a technician, I have to respect that. And that level now becomes support. So if we pull back, that's actually a buyable level now around 31.5, give or take. However, it would be very, very concerning if we started trading back below that. So this level is almost now the line in the sand on a bull case. You have to hold this level. If you start trading below the 30,000 level, for instance, you then start bringing into account maybe going back to 25. If 25 breaks, maybe going down to 20 and then to that 15.7 low. So right now, the buyable level is 31.5. Let's see if that holds on any sort of retrace. Let's say we really get in a bad space within the equity markets and everything else. I do think that there is ultimate demand for Bitcoin. I think the digital gold aspect of Bitcoin is slowly being adopted more and more. It's in its infancy at this point, but I do think that if you look at max pain, where the most people would be washed out, where bottoms are created, I do think that that would be right at that 10,000 even number. And I would be buying like crazy if we got down to those levels again. And I do think, again, now that you're seeing people like BlackRock's CEO starting to talk so positively about it. Granted, they're talking their book. We have to be recognizing that since they're bringing this ETF to market. But I do think that the big money out there is starting to accept Bitcoin, and that's the beginning of it becoming its own asset, just like gold. So if you're someone who just is not going to look at Bitcoin for the next 10 years, then honestly, anywhere in this range, I think is good. I do think it's north of 100,000 within 3 years. I do think, again, it has much more higher levels that it can achieve as well. So obviously, entry is nice to get. So I would say if it pulls back to this 32 to 31.5 level, that's where your accumulation zone. But again, the key is always don't invest more than you're willing to lose. You just never know about any asset out there. So just be careful. If you talk to a lot of Bitcoiners and maxis, they're telling you $1 million. I mean, I think I'm more realistic, looking at the market cap of gold and how Bitcoin is slowly growing into that. I think down the line it matches gold, but I don't think in the next 3 years it probably gets to those levels just yet. So I think 100,000, give or take. If we just want to talk about maybe that next level, I'll just show you guys this chart here. This is our weekly. So let's zoom out on our weekly. And if you want to just find a trend line that kind of tells you, simply take a trend line from the last bull market high to these bull market highs in 2021. And then if we kind of zoom out, we can see where that level is. And again, if we extend that out and just keep on running, you can see it's starting to approach $100,000. So again, that would kind of be the ankle or the angle that I'd be looking for that next target to be.
How does Bitcoin react to more liquidity in the markets, to a panicked Fed that cuts rates and maybe has to even inject more quantitative easing?
So I think the key is going to be this, is that longer term, the more money in the system, the better for Bitcoin, the better for gold, all of those assets that are kind of anti-inflation or do well under inflationary circumstances. But I do think that if the Fed gets in a pickle and you see all assets collapsing and they're cutting rates because it's a mess, it's Armageddon in the economy, then you could see that sell-off occurring at the same time. Remember with COVID, when COVID hit in March of 2020, gold sold off and Bitcoin sold off. So you have to remember that panic is panic. It's the biggest emotion we have. It's the craziest, the most intense. And that if we did have that scenario, you could still see Bitcoin dip on that news.
Breaking away from his usual penchant for entirely bleak and unflinching bearish predictions, Soloway now serves up a considerably more palatable dose of bullish forecasts. He radiates a sense of conviction, firmly believing in the widespread adoption of the ETF by a myriad of affluent investors. His expectation is that hundreds, if not thousands, of well-heeled individuals who are clients of the numerous firms that have submitted ETF applications to the SEC will eagerly embrace this investment avenue. This newfound optimism doesn't just end with ETF anticipation. Soloway also expresses appreciation for Bitcoin's growth trajectory and its rising popularity. He acknowledges that even within the realm of staunch traditional finance stalwarts, figures such as Larry Fink from BlackRock are warming up to Bitcoin. In the spirit of balanced analysis, it's indeed healthy to scrutinize both sides of the issue, evaluating the merits of contrasting viewpoints. By considering a diverse array of perspectives, you can make more well-informed decisions, especially in the dynamic and ever-evolving realm of cryptocurrencies. In light of these developments, we'd love to hear your thoughts on Soloway's interview and the evolving landscape of Bitcoin. Kindly share your comments and observations in the comments section below. Your insights and opinions are invaluable contributions to the ongoing discourse in the cryptocurrency sphere. For more daily dose crypto news, check out these 2 awesome videos on your screen. Click now and we will see you on the next video.